Get your lip gloss on. Hey guys, this is Fly Alyssa, and we are bringing to you Cockpits and Cocktails. I have my trusty host, Natalie flyGIRL Kelley, with me, and we have today with us Britt Lincoln. I'm super excited to have her on, as is Natalie, and we are excited to learn all about what you do. So how are you, Britt?
Is she frozen? I was like, wait a minute. She's not moving. What happened to her?
I don't know what happened.
There we go.
That was so weird. All of a sudden it just said, you've been signed out of Skype. And I'm like, what the hell?
And I was like, how are you, Britt? And your face was just like not moving.
And we were both like, she's frozen.
Let's try this again. Okay.
Yeah.
We are bringing the Cockpits and Cocktails to you guys tonight, and we have Britt Lincoln on the podcast tonight. How are you, Britt?
Great. How are you, ladies?
I'm so good. How has your spring, I guess, been? Getting back into aerobatic season?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I feel like I'm never home. I think that I was looking at the calendar, and I think the month of April I only was at home like 4 nights. So
Wow.
yeah, I know. It's been pretty busy.
Now, home for you is California?
Yeah. Yes, I live in the Bay Area in California.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Nice. I have a really good friend that lives in Walnut Creek.
Oh yeah, that's really close to where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. California is kind of opening back up and everything soon.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I don't know a whole lot about your aviation background. I do see all your really cool pics on Instagram and your videos, and I think, wow, that's really cool. I know you're into aerobatics, but can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into what you're doing and what you do exactly?
Yeah, of course. So generally for aviation, I grew up in northern Montana, actually in north central Montana, and my dad is a crop duster, and so I grew up with aviation, and we have a grass strip right in front of our ranch, right in front of our house, and my first airplane ride, I was 2 weeks old. My dad
Wow.
took me. Yeah, my dad took me up, and he says that I was in one of those little baby carriers, and he said that after we took off, it fit like perfectly. It rested between the yokes, and he said he just set me there and flew around with me. And so, anyways, so I grew up with aviation, and but I never really pursued it, and I went to college, and then actually moved to Europe for several years, and came back, and well, Alyssa, you and I think we started right around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you starting, and I was like, what is she doing all these cool things? And, I was always amazed.
You
by
just started flying about the same time Alyssa started flying? Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you'd been flying like for years and years and years. Okay.
No, I finally got my PPL. My dad taught me to fly in our Super Cub on our grass strip, but I never went through the formal process. I mean, it was kind of like, when you're a kid on the farm and you learn to drive a car.
That way.
Exactly. Yeah. So, in 2017, I was like, I really just need to do this. And so, I got my PPL here in California, actually in Concord, just down the road from Walnut Creek. That's where I got my PPL. And I got the bug bad, like really bad.
Yeah.
And so I just, my whole plan was just to get my PPL, and that's it. I had a career in finance, and that's what I was doing. And then I thought, well, there was all these people it was actually 141 school that I was getting my instruction at. I wasn't in the 141 program, but all these people that I'd started with started working on their on their instrument rating. And it wasn't really, I wasn't planning on doing it at all. And I thought, well, I want to keep flying, and I'm very goal driven. And so I was like, it gave me something to work towards. And so I just started working on my instrument. And then once I had that done, it was like, oh, well, I'll just keep flying. And then I had the hours for my commercial, and yeah, it just kind of sort of happened. And then it was like, oh, well, it's only 10 more hours to get my commercial multi-engine.
Yeah.
So I just did it. And then the next thing I knew, somebody offered me a job in Livermore. I was flying to fly. It was just like 172s. It was nothing crazy. But I was like, wait, somebody's going to pay me to do this? This is awesome, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of, so I basically just, it was a time in my career where there was some other stuff going on anyways. The company was moving to the East Coast, and I wasn't going to go, and so I took the opportunity, and I never went back to finance. And yeah, so now I'm flying a King Air.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the aviation stuff.
One of my favorite airplanes. Do you love it?
Oh my God, I love that airplane so much. I flew a Citation for a little while before this, and I actually prefer the King Air over the Citation.
Wow.
Believe it or not, I know.
Yeah.
So
do you fly for like a corporation, or what do you do with the King Air? Okay. All right.
Yeah, private. It's not charter, which is amazing. Sometimes we'll do like one trip a month. I think in June I'm flying every week, which is pretty unheard of, but yeah.
Okay.
So
are you doing something else besides that, or as far as career, or is just doing that as your career?
Just
cool.
that.
It's really nice to be able to focus on it. And I was, just contemplating this week actually, and I'm like, if I didn't have all these other things to focus on, I could just finish my ratings in a summer, like do everything and just, dive into it. But then like, I don't know where I would go from there. It's just one of those like, an opportunity, jumped into your lap kind of thing. So
yeah.
I want an opportunity like that to jump into my lap.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Most pilots probably do. I mean, it just seems like all of the stars aligned for you for that position, and your other career was kind of changing. So that's really cool.
How did you get started in aerobatic training? Like, when did that kind of start, or did you do like spin training and that kind of prompted it, or like what happened?
So I had done some spin training, and I really liked it. And I would just sometimes like rent an airplane and go out and just like spin, because it was like it was fun. I know.
I would not probably do that by myself. So yeah.
I got my spin endorsement, and the next day I went and rented. I was doing it in a Santabria, and I went and rented it. And I think I did spins for like 45 minutes, because I was just like, I know. But I'd never done any aerobatics, and I was so I fly out of Livermore in California. It's an airport that's east of San Francisco, and it's a really great airport, a really great community. And I'd met so many people, made so many friends, and I've got a couple kind of, I call them my airport dads. They've like, sort of like adopted me, and one of them, he's an old retired, old. I did not just call him old. I mean,
someone called him old.
He is kind of old. Anyways, he's a retired helicopter pilot, and I would like hang out in his hangar with him, and he'd teach me all kinds of stuff, like teach me a lot about working on airplanes. And anyways, long story short, I was with him on his tug. We're driving down this hangar row one day, and there was this hangar that was open, and these gorgeous red airplanes inside. And I was like, oh my God. Quail was the guy's name. I was like, Quail, whose hangar is that? He said, oh, I think it's this guy named Dave. And I was like, all right, I'm going to catch up with you later. And I literally jumped off the tug while it was moving, and I just walked into this guy's hangar. And I was like, hey,
we're friends.
I'm like, I think I actually said to him, can I drool on your airplanes? I feel like, Alyssa, I feel like this is something that you might do. And so, yeah, then he started talking to me about aerobatics. The airplanes were his Pitts S2B, and the Super Decathlon, the one that I started aerobatics in. And so he started talking to me about aerobatics and competition and the IAC, and I didn't know anything about any of it. And he was like, well, I was just going to take the Pitts up for a flight. Do you want to come with? And I was like,
ooh,
yes. And I'd never had a parachute on. I didn't even know how to like use the seatbelt. He had to like tuck me in, to the airplane. And we went up, and it was freaking awesome. I mean, he started really slow, and I was like, okay, what else can you do? What else can you do? The whole flight, I was like, more. And he was like, are you sure? And finally he was like, okay, we can't do anymore because I'm going to run out of gas. So we came back to Livermore, and he was like, "You have to learn how to do this." And I kind of put it off for a few months because I was in the middle of finishing up my commercial, and remember the gold ribbon part that I mentioned?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was like very focused on the carrot. And yeah, when that was over, then I started taking lessons with Dave, and that kind of became my drug. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. When I started, I just did like my spin training and a steerman, and like, so that was really fun, but that's so much slower. And
yeah.
then like I did some aerobatics last summer, and like 15 minutes in, I was like, okay, we need to slow this puppy down. And that was in a super decathlon,
Yeah.
but it was so hot. It was like over 100 degrees. It was in the desert, like it was in Nevada. So it was like super
Yeah.
hot. Like, I think it's just like having the right atmosphere, not eating before, not trying to eat cupcakes upside down.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
another-
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I remember that.
Yeah. I do too.
But I think, getting more females involved in aerobatics, we talked about this on the last podcast, that there's not a ton of females in aerobatics. And, like the people like the Patty Wagstaffs and those, like, they're kind of like not retiring out, but like they're at that point where like we need to pass the baton and
Yeah.
But yeah.
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 So.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. There's really not that many, and I'll go to contests, and more often than not, I'm the only female there.
Yeah.
And lots of times there'll be females in the lower categories. There's one other woman in California that competes in my category, and other than her, that's it. There's several in the it's called primary. That's kind of like the beginning category, and for some reason they just like don't stick around. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
What do you think the reasoning is? Do you think it's like,
I don't know, like competing priorities probably. There's one girl, and I mean, let's be honest, it's a huge commitment, and it's a big commitment time wise, financially, and if it's something that you really want to, I mean, like I said, I've gone from like 0 to 100, right? I mean, there was really no middle ground for me, and not everybody has to be like that, and most people aren't. It's super extreme, but even just to stay proficient, and to keep progressing, I mean, you need to be flying. Just, I would say, to be slowly proficient, you probably need to be flying like at least once a week.
Yeah.
Aerobatics.
And that's hard for people just to fly a normal flight once a week.
Yeah.
So to be doing this at that level, I think women a lot of times have our priorities in all these thought bubbles, and
right.
That might not be the first thing that comes.
Yeah, and if you have kids, there's one girl who kind of started getting into it, and I think that she has a son, and that starts to get really difficult.
Oh, definitely.
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have kids, but I'm assuming. Right?
Yeah. So when you, how did you get into competing, and what is that like? You go across the country. How do you enter contests? Tell people, like, no one's ever heard of this, so just break it down. Yeah.
So contests are sanctioned by the IAC, that's the International Aerobatic Club. Also, side note for people that are listening, if you are members of the IAC, we have an election coming up. I'm actually running for the board of directors. So,
cool. Awesome.
I think voting starts in a couple weeks, the middle of June, actually. So, anyways, sorry, I had to give that.
Well, good luck with that. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, contests are held throughout the US, and there's various chapters. So, I would say I do get a lot of people who send me messages and just say, hey, I want to learn aerobatics. How do I get started? And I would say the first thing to do is find the closest IAC chapter. They're all over the place, and you can look it up on the IAC website, or if you can't figure it out, just anybody can send me a message, and I'll hook you up with the local president that's near you. And so chapters host contests which are sanctioned by the IAC then. And yeah, there's 5 categories. Obviously, the higher the category, the higher degree of difficulty. And there's some differences. There's 3 flights. Every pilot flies 3 flights in the contest. It's usually over 2 days. And the upper categories, the 3rd flight is called an unknown. So you actually don't get the sequence. It's a sequence of aerobatic maneuvers. You don't get the sequence until the night before, and you're not allowed to fly it or practice it. So you can study it. You can look at the sequence card.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's the 3rd flight is the unknown flight.
Be ready for anything at that level.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's figures that, set allowable figures, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you pay money to enter these contests? Do you win things out of the contest? How is it like something at the very end? You've won this many of these chapter contests, so now you're at this different level?
System or
So actually, so you can decide. Every pilot makes their own decision on what category they fly, right? But like if somebody who is brand new aerobatics and they show up and they think that they're gonna fly the highest level, I mean, first of all, that'd be absolutely insane. But I mean, the chief judge, I think, if they saw you being dangerous, they would, there are rules and protocols in place to be like, hey, listen, the safety is obviously first. Yes, most contests are between $200 and $250 to register. And I mean, obviously, there's like the expenses involved, right?
Yeah, right.
The airplane, the fuel, the hotel, the travel. All that.
Yeah.
What do you win? You usually win like a $15 trophy if you win, and some medals.
On the back.
Yeah. And if somebody takes your picture, you have a picture to put on Instagram.
Yeah. So if I were to be in it and starting and say I was winning every single competition, at some point, do they push you up? Do you have to move up? What is the...
No, you don't. You don't have to move up. People give you a lot of shit about it. Can I say shit on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you'll get a lot of peer pressure. People really start heckling you, especially. So there's always like an award ceremony. We have like a big banquet at our contest, and people will be going like, move up, right.
If you're winning every time, they want other people to win in that category.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, there are some limitations though in terms of airplanes, right? You get to like the upper categories. You can't fly the 2 highest categories in a super decathlon, right? So if you have a super decathlon, and that's all that your budget will allow you to fly, exactly, it sort of limits you based on the category, and people are generally pretty understanding of that. There's one guy, Howard Kirker. He used to be in our chapter, and he flies a Great Lakes. You guys know what a Great Lakes is?
Yep.
Yeah, super heavy open cockpit biplane. And he used to be an unlimited pilot, which is the highest category, but now he flies this Great Lakes, and he flies it in intermediates, and he's a great pilot, and he's been doing this forever. But obviously his skill set is way beyond intermediate, but the airplane he has right now doesn't allow him, and he just kicks everybody's ass all the time. and he's like 75 or something like that. It's really awesome
to see a Great Lakes competing in a aerobatic competition. I'm gonna have to come out for that.
There's a lot of them in California, actually.
Oh, really?
The last contest, the first contest this year, I think there were 3 or 4 Great Lakes there.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
So do you try to stay in your area, or do you travel all over the country to do these contests?
Well, so 2019 was actually the first year that I competed, and I did 8 contests in 2019, which is quite a bit.
That's a lot.
Last year nothing happened, obviously. Yeah. The farthest I went in 2019, I went up to Montana and did a contest in Montana so that my parents could watch. And then, this year I have 10 contests planned. And let's see. I'm planning on going to Nebraska the end of June. So that's pretty far away. And the
Yeah.
nationals are in Kansas. That's about as far east as I'm gonna go.
Okay. Okay. What do you fly?
An MX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys just got that this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of months ago. I mean, we're still trying to learn how to fly that thing. It's a monster. It's
Yeah.
like crazy. It's like riding a rocket. It's insane.
And you partner on that.
Yeah, my coach also, he's the
Okay.
partner.
Gotcha. I was
Yeah,
gonna say, how do you keep practicing with someone and so you have a coach? Okay. Gotcha.
Yep, I have a coach. Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I remember seeing you like getting it home and having to stop and then being stuck and there's like nothing to do. And it's like, you don't realize, you know, anytime people say like, oh, just take me to Florida, I'll pay you to fly me to Florida. I'm like, I don't think you understand.
Yeah. You guys remember that big ice storm that came through? It was when was that? Was that in February or March?
February.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got stuck. We flew from Florida. We got as far as the Greenville, Mississippi, I think is where we were.
Yeah.
Like BFE. I mean, there's nothing there.
And you're like, you know, terrible courtesy vehicles. There's nowhere to go, like nowhere to stay.
So this is what ended up happening. So we got stuck there. We literally flew like straight. There was like this frontal wall that was coming east, and we literally got within like 20 miles of it, and we landed. And we're like, okay, we're just gonna wait. And we waited for like 2 days, just sitting there in this like place in the middle of nowhere. And you know, we're watching the news and we're like, God, it's gonna be like at least a week. And I said to Dave, I'm like, let's just fly home. Like, I don't want to just sit here for a week. I mean, there's literally nothing to do there. And it was COVID also, right?
Yeah.
So made it even worse. And so we left, and we did. We waited like I think 10 days before the ice melted. They even shut the airport down there. I mean, we couldn't have even left if we wanted to. They closed the runway. But here was the issue. So we flew this airplane into this tiny little town, and they did have airport cars, but we were trying to figure out. We booked a commercial flight out of Memphis, and we could not get to Memphis. Like, there were no Ubers. I looked for everything. There was no Ubers. I looked for a bus. There was like not even a bus. We couldn't get a rental car. There were no rental cars in this town. And so I was like, oh my God. I'm gonna buy a house in Greenville, Mississippi.
I live here now.
I'm gonna get out of here. Yeah.
I feel like those are the times I'm so thankful for like our social media like presence, because I honestly would have went on and been like, I'm stuck in hell. Come get me. I need to get to Memphis.
That is actually pretty much exactly what I did. And like, I was so frustrated because one of my mantras in life is, you know, no matter what happens, I'm always like, there is a solution for everything, right? Yeah. There's always a solution. It might not be exactly what you want, but there's always a solution. So I was trying to figure, like, when we couldn't even get a bus out of there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, maybe we should hitchhike, right? This super nice man I've never met, but we're friends on Facebook, lives like an hour away, and I don't know, I think he had seen that I was in the area, so he had messaged me and he's like, hey, you know, how's it going? What do you need? You know, if you need anything, let me know. And so then I think I messaged him. I was like, hey, do you know how the hell we can get out of here? And he's like, well, I'll come pick you up. And this guy drove like 3 hours out of his way and he drove Dave and I to the airport in Memphis, like out of the kindness of his own heart. I know.
Yeah. Wow. I think that is just so amazing. Like there's been so many things that have happened like that. Like I've been stuck at an airport or needed a ride or, you know, just, and everybody is just like always so happy to help. And you don't want to have to get into those situations at all the time, but at the same, you know, it's so nice to.
I have not really a similar story, but it's funny that you just said something about Memphis, because I was in Memphis recently. And my flight was leaving from Memphis to come back to Cincinnati. I was downtown Memphis, and my flight was leaving at like 6:30. So I was trying to leave my hotel at like 4:30 or something. I could not find an Uber anywhere. I couldn't get a taxi. I called the taxi company and I just never dreamed I wouldn't be able to get an Uber. And the taxi's like, we could be there in like an hour. And I was like, I don't have an hour. It's like, I've got to get to the airport. Yeah. And the hotel was kind of like, yeah, we don't really have Ubers. And finally, I got in touch with someone an executive, like a car service or something that came and took me. But I was like, oh my gosh, I have no car. I have no way to get to the airport. It was so frustrating. It was like,
I know.
Help.
Yeah. I think something's going on with Uber. I know that this is like not the point of the podcast, but it's like, it's changed. It's really hard to get Ubers. I flew into SFO, which should literally be like a 40-minute drive from my house. It's just on the other side of the bay. This was a couple months ago, and I was trying to get an Uber and I couldn't get any. And then like one popped up and they wanted $300 to take me 40 minutes from SFO across the Bay Bridge to my house. And I was like, what?
Wow.
It's crazy. I think COVID has affected it a lot. I've noticed it being in Vegas, like just way longer wait times, and there's just like not enough of them. Either people aren't working or they're just like overwhelmed now because like it probably, like it dropped out. Like people had to get different jobs because Uber wasn't happening in COVID. Yeah. They didn't need all these rides. Well, I flew to the Ozarks to go hiking. So I flew a little 172 over with a girlfriend of mine, got an Uber out to go hiking, and I knew I wouldn't have service out there. So I asked the woman, hey, can you pick me up at 2:00 and bring me back? And she says, yes. I said, I will pay you cash. You do not have to like book it, whatever, like I'll be here at 2:00 to pick you up. Guess who is not there to pick me up at 2:00?
Oh no.
I got a text message out to her and she's like, oh, sorry, I had another call and it's 40 minutes out. So it'll be like 3:30 before I can come get you. And I'm like, no, there's a storm coming in. I need to fly home. Like I need to get out of here before 3:30. Like I was and I had pain. I was frustrated. I was like, so yeah, you have to have like those kinds of things planned out. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I should have booked it the night before, but I feel like, and a totally different subject, but COVID, like the service at all kinds of places has gone down.
Changed. Yeah. Back to airplanes.
Sorry.
We got very squirrel sidetracked there, but I was thinking about competitions, and so I always get the biggest kick out of everybody on the tarmac, like doing their little like, maneuvers, like walking around, and like it's so funny to me to watch that. But I see where like playing that through would so help you. But the thing my goal this year is to get to a competition. There's been a couple people that are like, you need to get to a competition, like Lee Hubner and Eric and those guys. And I was like, guys, I'm coming. I'll help you wax the plane, whatever it takes. Like, I just want to learn. I don't understand this whole, like, there's the aerobatic box. Like, okay, like you're flying over it, but like, do you have to stay within this box? Because I mean, like from up high, you don't really know if
how do you know where it's at.
How? There's hold on. Okay. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna talk to you while I walk away. There's aerobatic, there's markers on the ground. So you can see the box. So I'm just gonna show you like really quickly what it looks like.
I'm in this box, but I'm always like, but you're flipping and doing all of these things. Like, can you like fly out of it, gain airspeed, and then come back into it and do your maneuver? Or like, how does? Yeah.
Okay, see that? That's what it looks like from the air. Exactly. Right. And it's a kilometer by a kilometer. And there's actually boundary judges, and they put a judge on the corners, and they actually have like these sighting gauges that they can look up and align to see if the airplane goes out of bounds. And no, you can't go out of bounds. Well, you can, but if you do, you get penalized. And the higher categories, more penalty points you get for going out of bounds. And you get penalized on every figure that goes out of bounds. So like if you go out, if you're like flying across the x-axis, like cross box, and you do like, let's say you do a maneuver and that maneuver goes out of bounds, you get penalized on that maneuver. And then if you start the next maneuver and you started out of bounds, you also get penalized on that maneuver. So every figure that you do out of the box, you get a penalty point.
Okay.
Penalty points.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's like a lot of space when you're up there doing it, or do you feel like it's limited?
It's tiny.
No.
It's not that big, like I'm like, you mean you gotta stay inside of that? Like,
yeah.
Wow.
And then and then think like if you have a wind, like crosswind, or you also have to compensate for the wind. It's honestly, I think the reason why I love this is it is the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, right? And it's like it's a strive for perfection, but there is no such thing as perfection, right?
Yeah.
But you always strive to attain it. And I can remember my first contest doing primary in a decathlon. And primary are like very basic figures, right? Like loop, roll, half Cuban, turn, about it. And a decathlon is, relatively compared to, especially like now the MX, slow.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you might be doing 140 miles an hour across the box. And I can remember my first contest, I was like looking at this box. I was like, oh my God, like, how can anybody ever keep it in the box and like have awareness of where they are in the box and know what figure they're supposed to do next? And I felt like I was flying with my hair on fire. And so, obviously the more high performance airplanes you fly, now I'm flying an airplane and I'm usually doing 200 knots across the box and shit happens fast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. People probably feels even smaller now. Because
exactly.
It's like,
People don't realize how fast those airplanes are. And like I did some aerobatics with Tommy recently in the Eagle, and it's a small plane and it's really snappy, but like it just happens so quickly. And I'm like, I don't know what just happened, Tommy. I don't know what just happened. Like, I watched the video and I'm literally like, we're like slipping backwards and the smoke's like enveloping and I'm like, oh God.
Is this supposed to be happening? We're not on fire, are we? Yeah.
It's such a change from the decathlon to that to, so I can only imagine like the extra and MX and like those things. Like, I just can't even fathom that, honestly.
But at the same time, I can see why it's a really good challenge. So I can see why it would be very fulfilling to do it, and to hit those points and stay within bounds and do everything really well. That would be very satisfying, I would say.
Yes, it is. It can also be so incredibly frustrating. I mean, I don't know how many like outtakes or clips I have from cockpit GoPro footage where I'm just like like after because sometimes I get really frustrated and upset with myself and dropping lots of F-bombs and screaming and being pissed off because I can only
imagine my faces that I would make trying to do these maneuvers because
oh God.
Because like if somebody else takes a picture of me and it's not like a cute little selfie of like, I look so cute, it's literally my face is like like I think I have a picture of somebody took of me like on final and I look like I was shot or something. And it's just like I'm like focusing that hard.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. So
I post some of it. You see some of it, right? And
this is usually
I do this
post.
Yes.
I know. I do the same thing. I never realized I do a lot of weird things with my mouth when I'm concentrating, and I stick my tongue out a lot. I stick my tongue out every time I roll. Every time. It's so weird.
Do you find that like something I thought about like watching like your posts and like doing aerobatics? Like, I wonder if people like really clench their jaw, if they would need like a mouthpiece or something, because like if you think about it, like that could really like
cause some damage and headaches and
and just the tension and the
my luck, I'd probably like it'd slip out of place and I'd choke on it and then
well, I can tell you, eating upside down doesn't work. So
what is your goal? What do you how do you see yourself progressing? What is your future plans in aviation and the aerobatics in particular?
Yeah, so right now, and that's kind of part of the reason why Dave and I bought this airplane. I was flying the Laser, which is also a great airplane, and I love that little airplane, but it's a 4-cylinder, and in the upper categories, Dave flew in an unlimited, which blows my mind. And I mean, he was beating extras, not all the time,
Wow.
not consistently, but which is really crazy. But it's hard, and it didn't present or show as well. And so, anyways, I'm trying to make the U.S. aerobatic team, U.S.
Okay.
advanced aerobatic team, and the qualifiers are next year. I mean, it's a super ambitious goal, and
That's awesome.
You're
I think
goal
that's great.
oriented, and you got cheerleaders over here. So.
Yeah. That would
so
be
yeah,
so
that's
cool.
I'm trying to make the team, and they only take the top 8 pilots. Yeah, and then if I make the team, then I train with the team for a year,
Wow.
and then compete for the United States at the World
Yeah.
Aerobatic.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting.
Where do they have that at, or does it change, or?
It changes all the time. They're actually supposed to be in Las Vegas in 2023.
Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, we'll see.
That'd be convenient.
Hopefully in the winter, because I'm gonna tell you, flying aerobatics in Vegas is no bueno.
Yeah. I know we have some really hot contests here. We had a contest a few weeks ago down in Borrego Springs, and it was 106 degrees.
Wow.
And it's.
Yeah. Do you ever get sick?
No. Knock on wood. I've never gotten sick.
Got sick.
I know.
You have a stomach of steel, my dear.
Yeah.
I've never gotten sick, but I know the point that I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I've learned to just, give it a break, get some air, but.
Yeah. I think it's something that if you start to feel sick, it won't go away. I mean.
Yeah.
So.
What was
with
your corporate flying? What are your plans with that, or your career? Any ideas?
I'm so lucky. I have the perfect gig. I mean, I am quite honestly, I'm more focused on the aerobatics than, I mean, it's great. I love this King Air, and it's a really great gig. They're so supportive. We only fly on the West Coast. We go up to Portland quite a bit, and down to we go down to LA a lot. And so if we do like 3 or 4 day trips down to LA, actually Dave will fly the MX. He'll kind of like chase me in the MX, and we have an area that's fairly close to where we go. We have a practice box, and so Dave will bring the airplane down there. And so like while I'm on my standby in LA, I just drive up to that airport and stay there, and I practice. Rather than sitting in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Really amazing setup. It's like most people aren't that lucky to have that kind of a schedule. And
and these guys are so awesome. They will actually they know it's really important, and they're pretty flexible. And so every flying job, maybe mine is the only one that's like this, they'll say, this is the trip we're doing, and you say, okay. These guys will actually email me a couple weeks or 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month in advance, and say, hey, these are the dates that we're thinking about flying, are you available? And I've actually told them no, I'm not available because I have a contest, and they go, okay, no problem, we'll rearrange the schedule.
Oh my goodness, that's nice.
Your contest schedule usually in advance, just because you have these planned. So give them that, and then if they're respectful of that, that's amazing.
I'm so fortunate.
Yeah, they must really, really like you. They want you to stay, so they want
either that or they just haven't found anybody else.
Yeah. Now, do you is the guy that you first ran into, was he kind of your mentor to get into aerobatics, or
Dave? He's my coach.
How did that all work? Yeah.
So is that the one that you saw? You walked in his hangar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was absolute pure coincidence. Dave has been doing aerobatics. He's been competing for 20 years, and he's been super active in the aerobatic community, and he's brought literally at least over 100 people into the sport. And yeah, so he's taught me everything, and yeah, he's my coach. So we go someplace to practice, and he's on the ground with a radio on a discrete frequency. He's also a national judge, so
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, so I'll fly, and he usually spends most of the flight screaming at me on the radio, telling me what I'm not doing right, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
pull harder, don't pull so hard. That's not vertical. That's yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think
That
it's
must be hard. Is that hard to take criticism and stuff like that from them, or no?
No, it's not hard to take the criticism. The part where it sometimes gets difficult is if I'm, in the middle of a sequence, especially, lots of times to prepare, and he'll give me unknown sequences. So he'll send me a sequence like tonight, and say, okay, this is what you're gonna fly tomorrow. And so, I'll be at home and I'll study it, and I'll be going through it and walking. And, it takes, obviously it's a high level of concentration no matter what you're doing, but if you're flying an unknown sequence, it's even harder.
Yeah.
And if he's on the radio and I'm trying to fly a sequence that I've never flown before, and he's like telling me,
yeah.
he's like in my ear. I mean, it's like every little thing, right? It's like
Yeah.
if I don't do it perfect, he's telling me, and I'm like, oh, just shut up. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, I mean, it's good, I guess, in the end, because then when I actually go to a contest and I fly, it's like,
Yeah.
peace and quiet. Peace and quiet.
Yeah, peace and quiet. They're leaving me alone.
I know.
Yeah.
Maneuvers are typically in like a routine.
Excuse me?
How many maneuvers are in a routine?
It depends. In the category I'm flying, like 14 or 15.
Wow. Okay. Do you have them memorized, or I've seen the little cards on the planes before? Is that what most people do?
Some people memorize. I don't agree with memorizing. I think I learned that lesson the hard way. I was at a contest, and I had the card in front of me, and I was not looking at the card. I mean, it should be fly the figure, look at the card, fly the figure, look at the card, because we're humans.
Yeah.
And I was at a contest, and I just was trying to do it from memory, and I skipped a figure.
Oh no.
And the judges have those like already like in their hands, so they know you skipped it.
Yeah, so if you skip it, you get a 0 for the figure.
Oh.
Which
shoot.
could be, yeah. So
That's hard.
What's your favorite maneuver that you do, or which one's what's your favorite, and then what's like your least favorite or most challenging?
my favorite, man. I really like inverted spins.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's all fun. Snap rolls are fun. The most challenging, man, that's a good question. Tail slides are pretty challenging. Rollers can be really challenging, like rolling turns where you're turning and rolling at the same time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Those are what I'm always like, how is that normal? At it from the ground. And I remember the first time I ever saw aerobatics was at the St. Louis. Well, I can't say that. It was at Sun and Fun, but I didn't really pay close attention. Like I watched the Aeroshell and formation, I watched that kind of stuff. But I remember sitting at the St. Louis Air Show, and it was like, I think it was like Skip Stewart or somebody in like a pits. And I just remember them like, the plane was just doing this, and I was like, that's not normal. What is he doing?
Right.
Like, like
What's
I
happening?
just want to fly straight and level. How is that a thing? I'm like,
They
how
don't,
do you
and
learn
they
to
don't
do
feel normal. It like physically, it feels so weird, because it literally, it sort of feels like your body is being like pulled from two ends. It's really hard to explain. Like they feel really odd.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I would like to go to a aerobatic show, have the paper in front of me, somebody explain to me, because I don't really understand how they look on paper. I've seen them, but I don't understand them. And then like, here's the paper, watch them, and then fly it. Like I want to do all three and see how that works, because it just, like when I was with Tommy, he's like, oh, this is a something tail slide, whatever. And I was just like, I don't know what the hell just happened. Like I just
Yeah.
It's
You should go to judges school, Alyssa.
I need to see it all together. Yeah, I think judges school might be the best thing for me. I don't think my stomach could fly and do all of that. And yeah.
You might be surprised. I think you could. You could. I mean, you got to work up to it. You know, most people.
Yeah.
I admit, and I don't know what it is. I don't know why it doesn't bother me. I don't get sick. I don't even like. Obviously, if I'm pulling like 8 Gs, I feel it, but it's not like I don't get that feeling. But most people aren't like that, and you know, so it's not like we're some special breed of people.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
I know that a lot of
Teach
people.
yourself.
Exactly. I know that there was a girl who flew with Dave several years ago, and she would, you know, they'd fly out to the practice area and they'd do like 2 rolls and she'd be ready to get sick. She really wanted to do it, and she just kept coming back, and she'd go fly with him like 2 or 3 times a week, and you know, until she got to the point where she had built up,
Yeah.
you know, a tolerance almost, and competed. So you can totally do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to go to a competition. I think it'd be so
you should.
fun.
Let me know if you're gonna go to one and where you think you'll go. I'll try to make sure.
Absolutely.
Give me a heads up.
I think Eric sent me the schedule. I don't know if it's his schedule or somebody's schedule. I have no idea, but I was like, okay, I can look at my calendar, cross-reference everything, and see what's nearby. Like, I don't mind traveling to Texas or Georgia or wherever, but you know, just, you know, having that, maybe Natalie and I can go. That'd be a lot of fun.
You come in 2 weeks and come to our contest in California. Our chapter's hosting our contest.
Hey.
Oh,
not next week, and after. I know it's short notice, but it'd be fun.
Where is it at? In San Francisco?
No, it's in the middle of nowhere. You'd have to like fly into San Francisco and then like drive 2 hours.
I think you're coming to see me in 2 weeks.
Me?
Yeah, that's when we're doing the air race thing. Remember?
No, that's 3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks?
Yeah. So next weekend is Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And the following weekend I'm free, and then I'm with you, and then I'm avionics conference in Dallas, and then Mexico. So.
I'll see you're free that weekend. Just book it.
I am. I was actually like, ooh, I'm free that weekend. There
you go.
So.
You could fly down with me, except right now there's an extra seat in the MX.
Oh, nice.
Look at that face. Look at that face.
I guess, yeah.
She'll be sending you a message later.
I know.
We might have to talk about this.
Yeah. It's like, were you serious? I'm in. Let's do it.
I feel like because things were so messed up last year with COVID, and this year I feel like even though my schedule was always crazy before that happened, it was manageable because that's just the lifestyle I had. And now I'm like this crazy balance. It still works, but I'm like always like I'm here, I'm somewhere every weekend, and it's crazy. And I kind of like am being pulled to like, maybe I should just stay home. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, Alyssa? Like, no, don't stay home. You only live once, you know? So,
YOLO. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So I keep saying like, it's the push to Oshkosh for all of the things that I need to get done. And then after that, I can have like some, you know, work on my, you know, ratings or whatever. So
yeah.
Something always comes up.
Brittany, to perform in air shows like Oshkosh or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm it's definitely something that that I'm thinking about, and I've been talking with more people about it lately. You know, the advanced team goal is kind of the priority at the moment. And obviously, you know, you start if I make the team, that, you know, it's also a bit of a resume builder, right? Mm-hmm. There's you know, there's like a confidence and a safety thing, right? To keep flying competition. And I mean, it really makes you a better pilot and more proficient and more aware. I mean, you know, really, you know, I mean, honestly, anybody, I'm not saying just like anybody, it's not like, I don't want to, that sounds bad, but you know, I could stop flying right now and go get my ACE card and probably start doing air shows as soon as I got my ACE card, right? But I still have a ton to learn. I mean, I'll never stop learning.
Yeah.
There will always be
Yeah.
a lot to learn, but I also feel like for me, there's kind of like a certain level and a certain proficiency that I want to get to in the competition world.
Yeah.
I'll probably never stop doing competition completely. I don't know if I will do like what Rob Holland does. I mean, he's crazy. I don't want his schedule, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm guessing that your family of the aerobatic competition people is pretty tight knit. You kind of know everybody that performs
yeah,
the
for
contest.
the most
Like a
part.
niche
I mean,
of a niche.
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. I don't exactly, and there's a lot of people that I'm friends with on social media that I've never met in person. But yeah, it's a
Same.
pretty small, close knit community.
Yeah. I think even if you've not met so many people that are in the same realm as you, like they're supportive of you regardless, and it's like, heck, I feel like I'm really close friends with a lot of people that I've never met on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Eventually we'll run into each other, but it's just, yeah.
It's so funny though. I was telling somebody about this the other day, talking about social media and people that you've never met in person. So at the contest a couple of weeks ago, I walked into the building to register, and there was this guy in there, and he was like kind of like looking at me, and I'm like, God, do I know him? I was like, well, he keeps looking at me like he knows me or whatever, right? And then pretty soon he walked up to me and he's like, "You're Britt, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he said, "I'm Michael." Again, my face gives away exactly what I'm thinking. I'm not like exactly. So I must have given him this look like, "Who the hell are you?" Right?
Yeah,
and then he looks at me, he's like, he goes, "I'm Eagle Driver on Instagram." I'm like, "Oh, Eagle Driver." Why did you just say so?
Like that's all you have to say is like, tell me your Instagram name. It's
exactly.
that happened to me at Sun and Fun this year. I was at my hotel. I had just signed in. Like I went to my room, got my swimsuit on, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna wear a towel. I'm just gonna go down. I walked down to the hotel pool, which was disgusting, by the way. But I go down the hall, and somebody's like, "Are you Fly Alyssa?" And I'm immediately like, no. And it was a boy and a girl, and they're like, "Oh my God, it is." And I was like, hi. Just in my swimsuit, no big deal. That's not embarrassing at all.
Basically like my underwear. This isn't awkward.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so awkward. And it's just like, it's so nice to like meet people, but at the same time, like, it's so awkward for me to not know who they are. I'm like, just tell me your screen name, like.
Right.
I was embarrassed. It felt so bad. I was like, oh man, was that just, am I just a
I would be like, can you like jog my memory with like something we talked about or something, it's kind of like Michael. There's a lot of Michaels.
I know, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and it's just funny how that works out, but
yeah, it is. Well, that's really cool. So tell me, like, how many women do you see, and how do you think we can get more women to do the aerobatic competitions? What does it take?
That's a great question. I think that like I said, it's not many. The ones that are involved, I try to be super supportive and try to also stay connected outside of the contest environment. And I post a lot on social media, and just hoping that it gets people interested, right? Trying to make it more real and more
attainable,
accessible. Exactly. Personable and not just it's like just something that other people do. And so I'm hoping that through that, and I get messages from people, and I try to respond when I can, and like I said, connect people with local IAC chapters, and
Well, I think it's really, really cool that like I didn't know that you had not been flying that long.
Yeah.
So to hear that was kind of like, well, Alyssa and I are very close, and when we both started flying, so I'm like, wow, you could go from that to flying in aerobatic competitions, it's that spoke to me. It's kind of like, I could do that. Anybody else could do that, you know? It's just
Absolutely.
like, you don't have to be flying for 20 years to start doing aerobatic stuff.
Yeah, I know. I've always appreciated your content just because it's like, you just put it out there for people. And, I think all of us are very open to talk to anybody interested in aviation or aerobatics or, whatever. So I think that's what aviation needs is female, mentors to kind of help in whatever capacity, like we all don't have time to walk them through, and hold their hand and, but you can help them get started and you can help them be on the right path too.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I really wish, I'm not a CFI. That's, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. You recently got your CFI, right, Natalie?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
hard.
Are you teaching much?
I have about 3 students, but it's inconsistent because they all have careers, during the day.
Yeah.
So it's not like a consistent, like my training was very consistent, 2 to 3 days a week, going to the same school, same instructors, same airplanes. And it's a lot more inconsistent and it's hard. I mean, it is finding a way to teach them some of the things, especially the things I don't feel very strong in. Those are hard.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about them, but I know they have to be talked about,
Yeah, of course. I think that's natural. But the reason I was mentioning that is, I wish that more pilots in general, but obviously we're talking about females and women, and I wish that more people would go out and do spin training, even if I wish they do it before they even got their PPL, and I wish that more flight instructors, I think if I was flight instructing, I would make my students do it. So many people that I talk to, and I even had some of this experience, some of this myself. Flight instructors are scared of stalls.
They're scared of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really scared of it. I mean, they won't even let you take it to the buffet, right? It's like as soon as the stall horn goes off, it's like recover, and it's this big dramatic thing, and that they pass that on whether they realize it or not to their students.
That fear
and
yeah,
exactly. And I really disagree with that. I think that it's really it's not safe, right? And there's a lot of situations where you can get yourself into a stall, and if you don't know how to recognize it and and it scares you, obviously it's a domino effect, and it can lead to disastrous things. And so going back to the aerobatics, not even just spins. I just wish that we could also get more people interested. It just makes it's at least has made me a much more precise pilot, a more confident pilot, across the board. And I feel pretty confident in my abilities to get an airplane out of any kind of weird attitude that's, especially unexpected. It's one thing to go do a spin and that you're gonna
know it's coming. Yeah.
You're gonna stop and you're gonna step on the left rudder, so you gotta push the right rudder to get out, right? Well, what happens, if you snap over into something and all of a sudden you're in an inverted flat spin? And anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, but
no, it's so true though that when I did my training, I did it in a Piper, and so we can't do spins, and then I never did spin training, and so I had the opportunity to do it in a Stearman, and so I was like, heck yeah. So I did my spin training in the Stearman, and the guy, I was a nervous wreck the entire day, and I get there and he's like, we're just gonna go up, we're gonna stall, we're gonna just practice slow, do this, left, right, stall, just like do all of these things. And then before I knew it, we were doing spins, and I was completely comfortable because you knew what to do, you knew how it felt, but like my instructors had always put this like fear in me that they were so terrible. And my instructor after my primary was like deathly afraid of stalls, let alone spins. And he's like, he had a Citabria, and he's like, absolutely not, like he did not like aerobatics, he did not like any of that, like no. And so it just like put the fear in me, and
Yeah.
And I bet even, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa, but I bet even after just going and doing some of the stuff that you've done, like with Tommy, you know, I imagine that you feel even more comfortable, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just have to figure out like what the airplane is doing, how to recover from those things. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think it makes you such a safer pilot. And, you know, even
Absolutely.
Tommy, he's like, I make myself sick all the time. You know, his daughters are, you know, doing 8 rolls in a row. And he's like, oh, yeah, it made me sick. You know, he's like,
Yeah.
you know, but it's just stuff like that where, you know, the more you practice, the better you get and the more aware you become of the airplane. And I think, you know, working with like hooker harness and things, you realize how important like being really like connected to the airplane and like just being really cinched in, because I've flown airplanes, you know, and done aerobatics and they weren't cinched down. Well, you can't fly accurately if you're sliding around and moving every time. So you really have to make sure that that's
Yeah.
yeah, you're fastened in
Good
there.
point. Wow. Yeah.
So
Well, I think it's really cool, and I hope I can see you compete sometime. I'd love to go to a competition. I think that'd be really fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Maybe you ladies could take some instruction and try competition.
Oh,
That'd be fun.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Alyssa, you think you can handle it? Yeah.
Oh, you guys could totally handle it.
Yeah.
I would attempt it. Like I would totally, you know, do the beginner class and, you know, because I mean, I think they're very basic maneuvers and yeah.
It's very I mean, primary is very manageable. Sorry, go ahead.
Was it different if you're controlling the plane versus someone else? I would think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
If I'm flying the plane, I'm way better. I don't like when somebody else is flying the plane, like doing hammerheads and, you know, all these things. I'm like, give me the controls. I'm like, even in a car, I'm that way. So
yeah. I mean, you know, you asked me before how many maneuvers are in a sequence, and you know, I should have been a little bit more clear. It varies based on the category I was referencing with the category that I fly in, but you know, primary, the kind of the entry level is very manageable. It's I think 5 or 6 maneuvers.
Okay.
So it's very brief. You fly the same thing all 3 flights, so there's no surprises, there's nothing new, and you know, they design it that way obviously on purpose, and there's no outs in primary, so if you fly half of your sequence outside of the box, you don't get penalized for it. It's very flying in primary is very manageable. I flew my first 3 or 4 contests, 3 or 4 in primary, and you're allowed to have a safety pilot, so like if you're flying a decathlon, you fly obviously from the front, and you can have a safety pilot in the back, somebody who's more experienced, just in case you get yourself in a situation that you know.
I think if I started that way, it would be comfortable.
Yeah.
You feel better about it. Yeah.
That's how I started. Actually, like I was flying the decathlon, and I didn't want Dave to get out of the airplane, and he's like, I'll never forget we went up to Oregon, and I flew my first sportsman contest, and he was still in the back seat, and he was like, I do not need to be in the back seat for this. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it without you in the back. And he's like, Brittany, he's like, I weigh 200 pounds. He's like, I'm just like a 200-pound weight back here. Like, I'm not helping you. And then I like made him stay in the back, and we got back from Corvallis, and we were out the next week practicing, and he's like, you're gonna go do this by yourself. And I was like, I was so scared.
The Band-Aid off.
Yeah, big step.
He kicked himself out of the airplane. So, but my point is, right, it's not like this scary thing, like here, just go do it and try it yourself, which nobody should ever do. Right?
Yeah. Where can we find you on social media?
So my Instagram is Britt Lincoln Aerobatics, and I'm Britt Lincoln on Facebook. My Instagram is open. My Facebook, I actually have to accept you as a friend, but honestly, like if you are somehow related to aviation and you don't have like a weird profile with all your pictures. Last week, I usually will accept your friend request. Yeah. And I actually, some people that I was working with on some stuff earlier this year, they surprised me. They actually made a website for me.
Cool.
It's so nice of them. Yeah. So it's brittlincoln.com.
That's funny what you said about the Facebook thing, because if someone sends me a friend request, the first thing I do is look at their picture and see if they're near an airplane. It's like, are you in aviation? I don't know your name.
Who the mutual friends are. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come join us on the show. All right, ladies, well, have a good night. Cheers.
Thank you. Have a good one. Cheers. I have my
freaking LaCroix
I
too.
love this stuff. Which one do you have? No, have you had the peach pear? Where's my camera? It's my
No,
new
I haven't had
favorite.
peach
It's
pear.
so good.